All right, so I'm back like I never left. Welcome to day 2. Yesterday, we spoke about how to start your level of brand authority. Today, we are talking about how to build your level of brand authority. And that comes under stage 2, build your rhythm, right? How you get that level of consistency by building your rhythm of how you produce your content. So let's just get straight into it. Actually, matter of fact, before I get straight into it, please like, comment, and subscribe. If you are thinking, wait, stage 2, then that means that stage 1 is out now. So check out stage 1 if you haven't yet before you get into stage 2. Stage 1, I was talking about how to fix your foundations, right? And how to start building your level of brand authority. And today, we are talking about how you now build on your level of brand authority, how we get from the next stage into our journey of brand authority. And you know what brand authority is already. It's your personal brand, your business brand, and your campaign brand. But we will get through the process. There will be some things, if you have been following from stage 1, there's going to be a couple things that you would have seen already, but it's completely fine because you need that reminder to then allow you to then realize what it is that I'm sharing for today's masterclass. So please do like, comment, subscribe, share with anyone who needs to know this stuff, right? And let's just get started. Let's get into it. So, you know what you stand for, but without structured cadence and platform dominance, your authority never compounds, right? And credible experts, they stay overlooked when their visibility lacks structure. So I left a corporate role to build systems that turn clarity into consistent authority, right? And no, this is not AI, by the way. This is not AI. I jumped out of a plane July 2024, and this is why I'm doing this now. This is how it started. So, in a nutshell, I help founders and expert service providers whose revenue depends on trust turn their expertise into recognized authority that strengthens pipeline, pricing, and commercial leverage. So, if that is you, then lock in because we have a lot to cover today. And how does this work? You will be familiar with the P.H.A.S.E brand authority system, right? I got the freebie authority method, which is the why, the P.H.A.S.E framework, which is the how, and the authority flywheel, which is the compound effect. In the last session, we covered the freebie authority method, and we also covered the first 2 letters of the P.H.A.S.E framework. So for today's session, we will be covering all 3, right? We will be covering the freebie authority method. We will be covering 2 additional letters of the P.H.A.S.E framework, and we will also look at some aspects of the authority flywheel and how it aligns with being able to build your rhythm at this particular stage of building your level of brand authority. So why this exists? Most capable experts are inconsistent, right? And it's crazy to think, but it's true. You can be an expert in various different things, especially the things that you are passionate about and you have the natural gift of being able to do. But then when it comes down to the idea of being able to distribute that regularly enough for people to identify it or to understand your level of credibility is inconsistent. And it's not because they lack ambition, right? I believe it's because they lack structure. And for anything, structure is the way that you manage to get things done, because you're no longer in a position where you post in bursts and then you disappear when delivery spikes and you got a lot of client work on. You don't end up being in a position where you have to restart your momentum from zero each and every time it gets busy. And that is something that I feel is the downfall for many brands, right? And many businesses, especially for solopreneurs and founders, because you're balancing a lot, right? I get it. You're doing client delivery, you're doing the admin, you're doing the delivery of the outreach as well for new engagements, business development. You need to go to networking events so people know that you're actually a real person. Like, there's so many things and so many spinning plates, but then you have to remember that you do not allow the idea of being able to distribute content that can attract more opportunity for you be at the bottom of your list to the point where it's no longer done. Visibility isn't built in moments, it's built in motion. And when you get into the idea of building your rhythm, throughout this whole masterclass, I want you to always think building a rhythm, building a rhythm, building a rhythm. Say it in a rhythm. I want you to really experience this masterclass knowing that the rhythm of how you do things is the best way to build your level of brand authority at this stage, right? So let's get into it. So the credibility environment has changed, right? As you would have heard me say in the first stage, the first masterclass, content is easier than ever. AI generates ideas now. The algorithm is amplifying noise. That's where we're at right now. And volume is everywhere. Everyone is in a position where we have a AI tool, whether it's ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, whoever. We all have access to the point where we can literally type, draft me a LinkedIn post, and it will just pop up. And not many people are actually doing it in a way that actually retains their context and their information that makes it an actual useful piece of content. It's just generating and churning AI slop, they call it, right? So based on that, reliability is rare because in a saturated market, consistent presence signals stability and stability signals trust. So what do you do when you are in a position where you want to be deemed more trustworthy, but then you just do not have the capacity to have that level of stability to post content consistently? Well, that is what I'm going to show you in this masterclass today. Rhythm is not volume in this case. It's not volume. It's not about how much you do it. For me, rhythm is reliability. That is what it means to me. If your visibility collapses when motivation dips, the problem isn't discipline, it's infrastructure. And for me, consistency is a system. And when you learn to build your rhythm with consistency in place, that is a system that you are able to produce based on having that level of reliability through your content. So, with the 3B authority method, if you are not familiar with it, you would have heard me say this every single time. Your brand authority is your personal brand multiplied by your business brand multiplied by your campaign brand. When you get those three levels of brands together, that gives you a level of brand authority. So with that, it is your personal brand, right? Your judgment buyers learn to trust alongside your business brand, your proof that you can deliver what you promise. And then you have your campaign brand, which is your strategic narrative that makes expertise visible, and the alignment model that makes authority compound overall. And for me, I always say that personal brands is only one piece of the puzzle. If you are looking to really develop a revenue generating brand, you need to consider all three. And then we have the phases framework. So as you know, we have the positioning, we have the hook, we have amplification, we have strategic partnerships, we have engagement, and we have sustainability. So we previously covered positioning and hook in stage 1. And for stage 2, we are going to look at amplification and engagement, because I feel that those two in particular is incredibly important when it comes down to being able to build your rhythm. So firstly, I will say motivation is not a strategy. It's not a strategy. If you are building your brand and your empire based on motivation alone, you may not get that far, right? Because motivation comes in waves. And with that, you cannot rely on the waves of life to dictate what you are able to do, when you are able to do it, and how you are able to do it. You need to build systems that create a level of stability for yourself in order for you to keep going regardless of the situation, regardless of whether you feel tired, regardless of your delivery that you need to commit to. If you have systems that you are able to use to create that level of stability, then there is nothing in this world that will stop you from being able to do such thing. And this session is particularly important because with me doing this, and as you know, I record my content, I upload one video a day, and I plan to every single day for 1,000 days. And in that process, I realized that in order for me to do this, I can't do this based on motivation alone. I needed to create the systems in order to get this done every single day to the process where it aligns with how I'm building my brand. So if visibility depends on how you feel, authority will always stall. Momentum follows structure. So based on that, follow the structure of how you start to build on your level of brand authority through the content you decide to put out. For me, I look at it based on the consistency equation, right? So that is structure plus clarity plus repetition equals momentum. So with that in mind, you don't need to be everywhere. You just need to be dependable where it matters. And that is when you really start to establish and align yourself with the relevant channels for your business. And we already covered the idea of your foundations in the previous session. We spoke about how you are able to understand who your target audience is, how to develop your ICP. We've covered all of that already. So if you do not know who your ICP is, if you don't know how to establish and find your niche, then start with stage one. Stage one will give you all the information you need. So then you get to stage two ready to go, right? Because with this particular section, we know our ICP, we know our target audience, we know their pain points, we know what solution we have that can help them get from A to B. Now it's really about just understanding how we build that rhythm to produce that content that will allow people to understand exactly what it is that we do, because there is no way that they're not going to be able to see us. And that's why I say, if you have the structure and you have that level of clarity and you have that level of repetition on your side, you will always have the momentum to deliver on the consistency that is required for this. So pick a pace you can maintain and commit to it publicly. I repeat, pick a pace you can maintain and commit to it publicly, because it does one of two things, right? So firstly, it keeps you accountable. It keeps you accountable. For everyone in my life who has checked on me regarding my daily uploads, I thank you, because you are holding me accountable. I said publicly, I am uploading one long form video every single day, and I'm not missing it. Because firstly, you're keeping me accountable. And number two, I need to be accountable for myself. I need to have that level of discipline. Because if I have that level of discipline based on that, for example, then I will have discipline across various other things. All the high leverage activity, I will know what I need to do in order to align with the idea that I need to build a consistent rhythm, a drumbeat rhythm that will then align with all the various things that I need to do in order to build my level of brand authority. And also, I knew that the idea of producing content every single day for 1,000 days is just crazy enough to work. It is crazy enough to the point where it will make people double take and think, wait, that's a bit mad, or why would you do that? And, that is one of the more effective ways to stand out. There's so many other ways you can stand out. And I've mainly done it to ensure that I can build on my level of camera confidence that will then see me through for additional opportunities later down the line. So you could argue it was quite a selfish thing for me, because I done it more so I can improve, so I can deliver better, so I can provide more of my expertise better. So I'm able to help you in the process as well. So it is all in the aid of me being able to publicly demonstrate my value on a daily basis, to the point where I am always considered as the obvious choice, no matter what. And I'm always deemed as the key person of influence based on that. So I would say pick a pace you can maintain and commit to it publicly. And for me, I feel that these are the core platforms where authority grows, personally. Feel free to let me know if you disagree in the comments, but yeah, that's completely fine. However, for founder-led B2B professionals, whether you're a founder, an expert service provider, if you own a business, I believe authority is built where buyers research decisions, right? And as far as researching decisions, especially where you are able to produce content, YouTube for me is gold standard stuff. YouTube is amazing. Like, I'm here every single day now, and I think it's epic. But YouTube has that depth and search authority that holds no bounds, right? That long form expertise that shows judgment and builds trust over time. So if you are watching my content or you've come across my content, I would hope that I have provided enough value for you to trust me, right? All the stuff that I am sharing on a daily basis, I incorporate myself. It's either something I've learned from, something that I am currently doing, or something that I will be letting you know that I am on the verge of doing this or trying that. So that's YouTube. LinkedIn, professional credibility and pipeline. So this is where buyers evaluate your peers, they check your reputation and start conversations. Majority of my conversations always start on LinkedIn mainly because I have a process of how I find leads and target different people and have conversations. And the idea of me producing said content has always allowed me to just do it more so with being able to offer something as value rather than it be something that is quite random and quite sporadic in that approach. Is very sort of calculated based on me being able to do that. And then Substack, owned distribution and retention. So where your thinking compounds and your audience becomes long-term leverage. And for those who are not familiar, Substack is ultimately like a blogging website where you can write your content. And that's where I blog and write about my journey of building a £1 million or 7-figure brand, matter of fact, within 1,000 days, whilst I'm sharing the journey of all the things I've learned throughout my decade of experience in PR as well and marketing. So these are the 3 core platforms I would advise. And obviously it varies for every different person and their business. But as far as a B2B perspective, I feel that these are the 3 core platforms that will provide amazing opportunity for you down the line. And then we have the Authority Flywheel. So as you can see, the full flywheel is the core platform, the synergy, the amplification, the PR, the marketing, and the revenue. But for the sake of this stage, we are not even close to covering the PR, the marketing, and the revenue just yet. However, we will be covering the core platform, the synergy, and the amplification. Because based on what I said regarding the core platforms that I feel are effective when building authority, now it is the idea of you using the authority flywheel to generate the opportunity where it leads into revenue. And this is the flywheel that I work specifically with my clients in like fractional CFOs and independent finance leaders. This is what I built specifically. So although the P.H.A.S.E brand authority system is a robust methodology, this particular section is what I focus on to turn any sort of ideas into revenue, right? And then for the sake of that, stay tuned for the future sessions. We still got day 3 and day 4 to go. And then in those lessons, I will then branch it out to cover the full spectrum of the P.H.A.S.E brand authority system. But for the meantime, pick your core platform. Where are you going to live? That's your main home. Where are you going to live? Is it LinkedIn? Is it YouTube? Or is it Substack? I would say pick one. Pick one. I would say ideally you could pick LinkedIn as your main core platform because everything can be a hub from your LinkedIn. Or if you prefer to be more video led in your content, do YouTube. Or if you prefer to write more content than anything else and you prefer to really spend your time writing about these particular things in your industry rather than doing video, then do Substack. But either way, when you get to the level of synergy, that is when you then use the content produced from your core platform and then you refine it and you redistribute it and repurpose it for other platforms as well. So for argument's sake, for me, I have YouTube. YouTube, I would deem more so as my core platform now. I would say previously it was LinkedIn. I would say it's a bit of both, to be fair, depending on the day. The synergy is me being able to repurpose that content on LinkedIn, whether it comes down to developing a carousel, whether it comes down to me developing just a LinkedIn post in relation to the actual video. And then on my Substack, I write an actual blog or an article in reference to the exact YouTube video that I did. And to make it even better, I use the actual transcripts because I do not script my videos as of yet. I do not script my videos, so they are very much raw and fresh in terms of how I speak. And because I'm able to incorporate the transcripts of me just speaking normally into AI in the way that I formatted it, I can develop blog content that is in my actual voice because I'm using the transcripts. So that's the synergy part. But the amplification, as I mentioned with me developing the long form videos, the long form videos are now distributed across other platforms that amplify the reach. So those are distributed across my Instagram reels, my YouTube shorts, my TikTok. Those short channels are literally amplifying my content to meet various other people that I may never come across, but it's now broadened every aspect of my ecosystem in terms of reach is concerned. And it also helps for search engine optimization basis because you could Google my name, right? And not only do you see various different places where I've been featured or presented on my social media handles, if you click on videos or short videos, you will now see all of my content on that page, where before it wasn't there at all. So I was intentional knowing that if I amplified my content across other additional channels, although they are not deemed as the authority platforms that I mentioned, they are still platforms that allow me to build on my reach and my reputation of people who know me for that particular thing. And when you get to that stage there, then you get to the point of now building your rhythm. You see how we're now locked in with the rhythm aspect of things now. You have your core platform where you develop the main set of content. You use the level of synergy to distribute the content in new different ways across those other core platforms. And then you use your level of amplification to take that message out wider. And that is how you build your rhythm in the early stages of building your level of brand authority. Let's continue. So if you're enjoying this right now and if you are getting a lot of insights, I would really appreciate it if you check out one of my authority platforms, which is my Substack. And as I mentioned, you will be able to see or read, matter of fact, the £1 million visibility blueprint series, where I cover a lot of the insights of me building a 7-figure brand within 1,000 days, the wins, the losses, the lessons, the messy middle, the the rough stages, all the things. I just really write about it and be very honest and transparent. I would say a lot more so than I am on YouTube, to be honest. So I have that alongside all additional pieces of content when it comes down to building your level of brand authority. So if you are interested, if you are someone who prefers to read more content than watching the content, please do subscribe. Please do check out the content. And also a reminder to please like, comment, and subscribe to this channel if you are enjoying this video so far. So let's just get straight into it. Let's get back in the room. So the visibility architecture. So that's where we're at now. So when it comes down to building your rhythm, you have to understand that rhythm compounds when it's structured in layers. And for this, we have a weekly signal, a monthly engine, a quarterly campaign, and an annual spotlight. So when layered properly, visibility compounds instead of restarting all the time, right? So let's start with the weekly signal. So as I say, that is the minimum viable authority signal. And when I say that, I always talk about what is your minimum standard? What is the amount of times you can post reliably without not being able to do it, without burnout, without being caught up in delivery or client work or any additional things that you have going on because you're just busy. You're just busy. So what is it? What is your minimum standard? Is it once a week? Is it twice a week? Is it once a month? That is a moment where you be honest with yourself and then you establish to yourself what is your minimum standard? How much content can you actively commit to on a weekly basis? So for me, I define the weekly signal as one deliberate touch point per week. So that can be a social post on a core platform. That can be a blog. That can be a YouTube video, or it could be a newsletter. The idea is that small, consistent signals prevent authority from cooling off completely. And that is where you start based on the actual idea of your visibility architecture, the weekly signal. And then we move on to the monthly engine, structured market presence. So based on that, that is when you then decide if you do pillar-led social content based on your authority pillars. If you do not know what your authority pillars are, I would highly recommend to go up to stage 1, as I've covered it all in stage 1 in the first masterclass. And then one anchored long form asset in whatever way that can be aligned with you. So this is not about frequency, it is about recognizability. For people to instantly know you based on what you are able to provide as a monthly engine that provides more value and more information based on who you are. So an example could be the ideas of developing more so a lead magnet per se. If you have a lead magnet and you develop various different lead magnets monthly that allow people to be immersed in whatever you're working on, that is a fair way for you to then understand how you are able to build structured market presence. So the quarterly campaign, intentional visibility with commercial purpose. So with the quarterly campaign, you want to look at things that involve the ideas of launching offers and services. If you have a new offer, a new service that you want to put out, make that something quarterly that you can build out as a campaign. If you have any active collaborations that you need to activate or that you need to be pursuing or actually getting done, that can be also another way to build for your quarterly campaign. A way to elevate your positioning. Is there a way that you can do something that can help you elevate your positioning even further? And then it could be in the form of a webinar. It could be a form of a masterclass, as I'm doing now. Campaigns prevent stagnation, right? And then the more that you think about additional campaigns later down the year that you can incorporate into the whole idea of people being able to understand why you are the key person of influence and the obvious choice, that is an amazing way for you to build your rhythm based on the idea that you know exactly what you'll be doing based on different times. And then annual spotlight. One defining authority moment per year. So that can look like a major insight release. Excuse me. This could be an industry talk. You could be invited to speak at a wide, massive event. It could be a flagship initiative that you have for yourself or for your business. Or it could even be a set of awards that you recently applied for and you have now been in a position where you've been recognized for your work and you are in a position where you've even won an award. Something that really highlights a defining moment in your year. Just one per year. And then realize that spotlights create credibility anchors. And the more that you create those credibility anchors, the more that people are always there to understand your why. And they understand your level of credibility. And when you're able to present your level of credibility to the world, and it's also established by others and acknowledged by others, then that puts you in a great position to continue to build your rhythm to a point where your brand continues to grow. So with that in mind, you want to think with content engines, right, and not content chaos. So when it comes down to the idea of reactive posting, that will create burnout fast. You need to build depth first. You need to build an idea of what the content will align with. Does it align with your brand authority pillars? Does it align with your ICP? Does it involve your IFP? What is the actual objective? What hooks are you going to be including within the content? One core idea should produce multiple assets. There is no reason why you produce one piece of content and that content is never redistributed or repurposed into something more. Remember that depth creates durability. The more that you have that level of depth, the more durable you are in the way of being able to produce said content. And that's why I always use the example of long form YouTube content, because I've learned over time that the more that I use YouTube as a platform to develop said long form content, the more that I can take so much content from one video. And give or take, my videos on average is probably maybe 15, 20 minutes. So based on that, that's 15 to 20 minutes worth of value that I can incorporate in various different formats and in various different ways. And then also short form without structure creates exhaustion. And with this, personally, I'll be quite honest as well. Although I have a system in place of developing the short form content, I need to do a lot more better in producing more bespoke short form content rather than it being more repurposed content. Because although I don't consider the TikTok, YouTube Shorts, or Instagram Reels as my priority platforms, it definitely helps to use more bespoke content to amplify the reach even further. At this moment, I would say that based on the idea of building my rhythm, I have a constant drumbeat over there within those platforms, but to superpower and supercharge it to a way that it aligns with the overall process of my ecosystem is something that I need to look into more, personally speaking. And then also, pillars protect your focus, right? So, as I mentioned in the previous video, 3 to 5 reputation pillars. They need to reflect what you know deeply, what you believe strongly, and what your audience repeatedly needs. Remember, constraints reduce fatigue and repetition builds recognition. So every time I always talk about my 5 authority pillars being PR, marketing, branding, personal development, and AI. Those are the 5 things that I speak on often. And I know that it is something that I know deeply, something that I believe in strongly, and something that I know my audience repeatedly needs to know in order for them to build on what they need to do for themselves. And then what I would say in terms of building your rhythm as well, also look at awareness days. Awareness days can support your content when used intentionally. And when you learn to do that and you build your rhythm around all the things that are happening, then that also makes you someone that people are always going to consider, because they know that not only do you post content, but you have your fingers on the pulse when it comes down to reacting to content that is relevant to your industry. So remember, awareness days, they give you a timely hook. It gives you a cultural moment to join and get involved in. And it gives you a reason to reinforce your expertise. But they should support your authority, not replace it. And what I would say is that make sure that you use these awareness days selectively to connect your insights to conversations people are already having. And make sure that within your brand, it is actually aligned with you, right? For an example, don't be effectively talking about National Jigsaw Puzzle Day and you've never documented you doing a puzzle in your life, or you haven't spoken about your interest in puzzles to begin with. It seems to be out of the loop. It doesn't align, and it kind of makes you look a bit untrustworthy because it doesn't necessarily align as far as what you've been able to produce, as far as putting your brand out there. And that's why I always talk about the importance of your personal brand your business brand, and your campaign brand, because your personal brand is all the reason as to why you are able to then showcase these particular things that make you you. And those are the things that build that level of trust. And also, I want you to think like a PR strategist. PR professionals plan narratives and they don't guess weekly. They always think months in advance, maybe even quarters or years, even in fact. So each quarter should have a focus. So for this quarter or the next quarter, are you focusing on authority? Are you focusing on getting more leads? Are you focusing on building new partnerships? What's it going to be? But just remember that based on each quarter, if you strategize well, everything should pull in one direction. So if you are intentionally looking to build your brand authority for that quarter, you can follow the process of building your rhythm to do so. If you are doing it to generate more leads, then you can do it in a whole different way as well. But then the more that you have an idea of what you are looking to do for the following quarter, the more that you have time to plan and prep. And as I said before, define your minimum standard, slow and steady. The test of rhythm isn't just good weeks, it can be the hard ones. Define the smallest visibility action you can maintain no matter what. Like, honestly, no matter what. If you say you are going to post every Thursday at 12 o'clock on LinkedIn, post every day on Thursday at 12 o'clock. Or every Thursday, sorry, at 12 o'clock. Whatever you decide that you want to do for your minimum standard, just stick to it. Momentum survives through maintenance. Remember that. And then with that, repetition builds trust. Repetition isn't boring, right? I used to think it was, but then I was very much wrong. When I realized that the algorithm doesn't care about any of us, I realized that it's in my best interest to always reinforce what I am doing, because I can't assume that what I post, everyone is going to see it. And in actual fact, as I've mentioned that I have been producing weekly written content on my Substack every single week. In actual fact, I started blogging and writing articles on my website in August 2024. Every single Wednesday to today, I've been producing content, written content weekly. And I done a poll on my LinkedIn asking people if they knew that I did it. And a huge percentage of people said they had no idea, despite the fact that every Wednesday I would publish the article. And that's when I realized that it is in my best interest to always reinforce the work that I'm doing and to show a level of repetition and reposting it and republishing it and redistributing it in different ways. So repetition isn't boring. It's reassuring. It's reassuring because people are bound to see it if you keep going. People trust what they recognize, and that is based on repeat proof, right? And not promises. You showing up all the time is the promise that you need without having to promise anything. That's showing your level of commitment and dedication to what you are looking to do. And then also, I want you to bear in mind the 7-11-4 principle. This principle was widely more recognized when Daniel Priestley spoke about it, but I believe it's actually research from Google. And that research shows that if someone, i.e. a potential buyer, has 7 hours of engagement across 11 touch points in 4 separate locations, that is the sort of equation that will make them feel like they know you, and that they will feel like they want to know more about you, and they will ultimately want to buy from you because you've managed to produce that much content where they can binge your content for 7 hours plus. You have produced content across so many different touch points that it is so hard to just get rid of you. Respectfully, it's just hard to get rid of you because you're always there. And then in 4 separate locations, i.e. different platforms, whether it's YouTube, whether it's LinkedIn, Substack, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, your newsletter, 4 separate locations across 11 touch points and 7 hours of engagement. When I came across that idea, that is when I had to really get out of my comfort zone to produce more content online. And I would imagine now I definitely have more than 7 hours of content online. But then now it's just about ensuring that I am able to produce it at a level where someone would actively want to watch 7 hours of my content. But once you get that as a minimum standard in terms of what you're producing, you will start to see a change in how people are entering your ecosystem based on you posting said content. So remember, trust builds through time, repetition, and multiple environments. It's not just hours, or it can be more so hours. It's not just impressions and touch points, and it's not just the post. If people feel like they already know you, your rhythm is working, and then it's just for you to keep up with the rhythm. And remember to measure leverage and not likes, right? Because vanity metrics are distractions. And I already say this all the time. We do not have time for vanity metrics on this channel. So I want you to track better conversations. I want you to track stronger inquiries. And I want you to track higher quality opportunities, because momentum compounds quietly. But when it compounds, it will compound in a big way that will lead to so many opportunities. So based on that, track the things that are high leverage and not the things that just make you feel good at the moment. And remember, collaboration strengthens rhythm. Visibility doesn't need to be a solo effort. Collaboration adds a level of accountability. It adds a level of energy that you can feed and share off each other. And it has that shared reach. So authority grows faster in aligned rooms. And the more that you then align it with the idea of strategic partnerships, aligning up with the people that make the most sense within your business and your brand, then the more that you continue to build a rhythm that compounds over time. And also, you need to rest. You need to rest. Rest is part of the rhythm. And it may sound hypocritical coming from me uploading one long form video a day, but I assure you, the rest is important. You don't lose momentum by pausing. You lose it by burning out. And, for me, I don't believe in burnout anymore. I said that before and I got a bit of stick, but I'll say it again. I feel that everything that I'm doing at this moment in time is aligned with everything I want to do. So for that reason there, I don't feel burnt out. Yes, I will feel tired, or I feel exhausted, or I feel sometimes low, depending on the day, but the thought of burnout doesn't apply to me anymore. I had burnout when I was working a job I didn't want to work. That was a big definition for burnout for me. But then with that in mind, sustainable visibility is renewal based. Focus on being sustainable with your approach of visibility. Don't overexert yourself to the point where you can't continue on the journey because you burnt yourself out over time. And focus on a system that aligns with this. There's so many different approaches of how you can produce content. For me, I batch record so much of my content so that I can focus the rest of the weeks on other activity that needs to be done. So with that, I have effectively worked on my timing so that I know what I need to do for different things. And when you then establish that in your journey, then it makes it a lot more easier for you to really have those particular sort of areas in your calendar where you block them out for the relevant, important things that you need to do on a day-to-day. And with this, I will say build brand equity and not just output. Content creates awareness and brand equity creates longevity. So every piece should connect to your philosophy, your framework, and your mission. Visibility is short-term and reputation compounds. So as you are in the process of building your level of brand authority, build it with rhythm in mind and make sure that with the rhythm, you always incorporate a level of brand equity. Because every time you are able to incorporate that within your content and within your journey and the process, the more that people are getting to understand exactly who you are and why you are the key person of influence and the obvious choice. So to end here, build your rhythm checklist. So have you chosen a core platform yet? Are you going to go for YouTube? Are you going to go for LinkedIn? Are you going to go for Substack? Are you going to go for another platform? Let me know. Have you installed a weekly signal? Have you built a monthly engine? Have you defined your quarterly focus? What is your annual spotlight looking like? Are you trying to win an award? Are you trying to make it to Hollywood? What is your annual spotlight? Create a minimum standard. Have you created that for yourself? Have you been repurposing your content intentionally? And have you tracked the leverage signals to showcase that what you are doing is actually working? Or if it's not working, do you know what you can do to improve it? Those are the questions. But what I can tell you is that rhythm must be reliable. Rhythm must be reliable. And the more that you build your rhythm with that in mind, the more that you will be able to be in the position where you are always around. People are always seeing your content. People are always referring to your content. That's the way to go. So that is it for today's session. Day 2, how to build your rhythm, how to build your level of brand authority. This was a good one. I hope that you enjoyed. I hope that you got a lot of value from this. I hope that it's been incredibly useful. For those who have been locked in with day 1 and you have now watched day 2, let me know in the comments if you found this useful, if you found this engaging. Please do share with someone that this could be of help to, of use to. And please like, comment, and subscribe. And I will catch you tomorrow for day 3, because we already focused on how to start. Today we focus on how to build, and tomorrow we are going to talk about how to amplify your level of brand authority. I'll catch you tomorrow. Peace out. Look after yourself.